We're doing Hangin with Jon member video review. A fan favorite, my favorite Ask an Expert episode that we bring to you just about monthly. And I'm joined, of course, by Jon Holling. Jon, thanks for doing this with us.
Thanks for having me on and dealing with my technological idiocy.
I have to bring it up. Jon and I were just troubleshooting some audio issues and, spent about like 10 minutes tinkering with the mic and the speaker, trying to figure out why he couldn't hear me. And after exchanging a number of texts and getting on the phone, I think we realized that Jon had his volume on mute. So
it wasn't completely the truth, but it was certainly part of the problem.
It's not far from the truth. He's a fantastic trainer and rider, though, so he doesn't have to be good at everything.
Thank God.
Jon, I was just thinking, you have such a enormous fan club within Ride IQ and beyond Ride IQ, and we do this regularly. But I was thinking, for people who might be new to Ride IQ, or this is their first member video review, so they're seeing you on the screen for the first time, maybe it warrants a little bit of an introduction. Would you be up for giving us just kind of some information about yourself and kind of what is going on in your riding life right now and at your barn lately?
Yeah. So do you want a bio or do you want what's going on with me lately, or a little bit of both?
A little bit of both.
All right. So I am a 5-star event rider. I've ridden, I think I counted it up, I think I've ridden around Kentucky 9 times. I did Burley once. I've been to some other horse shows around the world. I got to do a World Cup final and a Nations Cup team competition, which was pretty fun. So I've ridden around some big horse shows. I infamously won the 2012 Bromont 4-star and got to streak across the Bromont sign, which was pretty fun. Probably can't get away with that anymore, so I'm glad I did it when I could. And generally, I've done horses my whole life with my wife, Jen. We are based here in Ocala, Florida, and we run a training, lessons, and sales business down here and have a generally great time eventing. Right now, I've got a really nice string of relatively young horses. I've got 2 going at the 3-star level and then some young horses coming up behind those. So it's kind of a fun year and fun time to be in Holling eventing, because we got nice horses to ride right now and really good students and people and very busy, which is great.
That's so awesome. Yes. Busy. You seem to really thrive with busy, which is probably quite important for your profession and your role.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think it's good to cover that every now and then just to make sure people are up to speed. So our video review this week, we have some awesome videos and a great variety of videos. So I think there will be a lot to talk about. If it's good with you, are you ready to jump into?
Let's do it. I even put on my glasses today, so I'm ready.
Yeah, you can actually see the videos this time.
Exactly. It's gonna make it way better.
Yeah, totally. Okay, let's see. We have up first. I'm gonna play and let you watch while I pull up some background information. This is Keegan and her horse, Governor Atwood. He's a coming 6-year-old off the track thoroughbred and her RRP horse this year. He last raced in October of 2024 and then came to Keegan a week later. He got the month of November pretty much off, aside from 5 rides to see where his brain was at, because RRP training will start in December. And for this video, she said we did intro B dressage because we're not quite secure in the canter transitions yet, and she wanted it to be pleasant. He did really well and scored a 65.5%. The judge seemed to really like him. I'm looking for general feedback. She said they got several comments about lateral bend, which is a work in progress.
Yeah, so I think the first thing I would say from watching this is it looks like a generally pleasant horse to ride. The first thing I really liked was when you came down center line, Keegan, you halted and he stood nice and quiet and still. And I think that's really important. I think a lot of us get too caught up too early trying to make sure that they're square. And what I really liked is that you stood there, he halted, he was quiet, he wasn't perfectly square, but you didn't panic about that. You just made sure he stood there well. And I agree, like, look, they want you to have more lateral bend because that's how you're eventually going to get him to be rounder and softer and more connected. But that said, when you made your left 20-meter circle in the middle of the ring there, you did lose the shoulder a little bit to the outside, and then you had a little bit of a head tilt. So I think you need to be careful how quickly you introduce that bend. And I think as well, and this is just a general statement for everybody, we have to be very aware that the judges are giving statements of things that they see right then on the day. But it doesn't always mean that you can go there right then. Like, for example, you could have an advanced horse and they're going to tell you it needs to be more connected and engaged, but maybe it's a 9-year-old or 8-year-old advanced horse and it's not ready for that quite yet. And if you go there, you're going to get the horse upset. I'd say with your horse, he looks like he's actually better going to the right and being able to keep his shoulder in line and stay straight. But when you were working to the left earlier in the test, he definitely bulged his right shoulder and then got a little bit of a head tilt. So while you probably want...
I'm having internet issues, apparently. There we go.
There you are.
You want bend. I think more importantly, you want straightness. You want a horse that is connected. You want a horse that is following your outside rein and leg and is able to be steered and generally pleasant going around the ring. So as you continue working him, I think the big goal needs to be that he's even in your reins, that he moves forward when you put your leg on, that you're not having to grind in him, which you don't look like you are, that really just stick with the basics. Because what I love about this horse is he looks like a joy to ride. He looks happy in his work. He looks pleasurable and relaxed. And especially with a thoroughbred, it's very easy if you get ahead of yourself and you get trying to make him kind of look the part by pushing bend, that sometimes then they get frustrated. And that would be the worst thing you could do with a horse like this. The best thing about him is that his ears are pricked. He's happy. He doesn't swish his tail. He's beautifully groomed, by the way. He's got a lovely shiny.
Really is.
Yeah.
That horse shines.
Jealous. If this is this time of year, I'm super jealous because my horses all look like Brillo pads at the minute.
Give us your secrets, Keegan, please.
Yeah.
I'm so glad she sent in a video of this new horse. And I think that she recently in the Facebook group did a glow up picture of this horse just from the time that he's been with her. And it's incredible. And it does show not only like the horse's body looks a lot better, but his coat and everything did a big glow
it's
up
impressive
too, just in that brief time. Seriously, Keegan, tell us your secrets. Okay, next video is also of Keegan. This will be the same horse, so you have a little bit of background already. Let me get that pulled up for us. Keegan jumping video. She said, this is an 18-inch show jump round. I mostly was trying to stay out of his way so we could figure it out, and the plan was to make it calm and pleasant. Again, looking for general feedback and Jon's thought on how the progress is going for 2.5 months of training off the track. Jon, you are coming in a bit glitchy right now.
Yeah, I don't know. My internet is terrible right now. It's always terrible. I feel like it's me.
It's ask an expert, but now I can hear you.
You can hear me now. Good. All right. So one thing I'll say that I really like here is your use of the trot, that you're bringing him back and trotting him and not sort of forcing him to canter. Again, it goes right back to what we were talking about earlier, that relaxation is so important, because that once he can be relaxed, that's where he's going to really be able to learn then to jump. So very smart bringing him back to trot. You're staying forward and light and out of his way. That's a pretty trusting ride on a young horse, but he looks like he takes it. So I quite like that. I'm just watching here. But you sit really nice and quiet on them. You stay right in the center. Your release is good. You don't over soften. I think it's a nice sort of early on in a horse's career show jump round, just getting him out there and letting him, again, the most important thing with these young horses is that they're happy in their work. He looks like, the reality is at this level, he looks like he's reasonably talented. You're not going to really know for a while if he's super, super talented, but he definitely looks the part. He jumps well enough. And you are doing all the right things, quite honestly. You're staying in the center of him. You're staying soft. You're allowing him to jump. You're not forcing him over the fences. I didn't once see you have to go to your seat and shove him over anything. I really quite liked it. So well done.
What a doll. Usually, I mean, 2.5 months off the track, I expect like fire breathing dragon, and that horse is so far from it. That was fun to watch. He seems very sweet. And Keegan, I'm sure that your demeanor has a big effect on that too.
Yeah, Keegan, you get a gold star today on both of those. Well done.
And thank you, Keegan, for continuing to let us learn from your videos. Everyone who sends these in, I know it's not that easy to, put yourself on display and let Jon put you on blast. But if you watch these, Jon is very kind with his feedback.
I mean, I can be mean if you
thank you to
want.
Everyone. Yeah, if anybody wants the mean version, you can ask for it. We'll have that available too. Next video is our friend Taylor. Let me see if I can get the right tab up here. And let's hit play. She said, "This is a case study in centerline halts. Video clips were taken at a schooling show 2 weeks ago and a recent at-home practice where we've been focusing on improving halt quality." Not to brag, but I got to meet Taylor and Marty at the Colorado Horse Park a few months ago. And that horse is just as cute as you would expect him to be in person. Now, I thought Jon wasn't laughing at my joke, but I think he's frozen. So it's just me here. And Taylor, I wish I could give you feedback on this, but I would just be giving you 10s. So I don't even know if Jon knows that he's not here. Let me see. He's probably giving you feedback thinking I'm not responding. Oh, he's gone for real. He knows he's gone now. So we can all take a first pass at this, appreciating Taylor's hard work and how sweet Marty is. Jon texts me that he's coming. So allegedly, I won't be the only armchair expert here. Actually, I will be the only armchair expert. We'll have the real expert here shortly. So Kinsey and I have a bit of a debate when this happens. Kinsey always says she's not going to fill the airways with just jibber jabber, and clearly I disagree. I'm happy to hear myself talk until I'm joined by somebody, but maybe this is something we could put to a vote. Let us know if you want to hear jibber jabber if you're tuning in live, because this will all get cut for people who don't view it live. Or if you would rather we just wait patiently and politely like Kinsey chooses to do. Let's play it back, guys, just so you have something to watch. Marty and Taylor practicing centerline halts. This is at a schooling show, and then we'll watch them schooling it at home.
Get off the internet. Okay. Am I back?
Oh, we actually did we heard that.
Yeah, I know. Sorry. I realized as I said it, but I'm not sure that's the issue. I did also move. So I apologize.
Yeah. Don't worry. I was just telling people that Kinsey and I have a disagreement about what we should do during these, like when this happens. And Kinsey is like patient and polite and quiet, doesn't want to just, fill the air with nonsense. And I'm the opposite. So I just did a little monologue while you were gone.
Yeah, perfect. Good job.
Okay. And I told a joke right before you went blank and you like didn't say anything and I was like, okay. But it was funny. It has to be because I lost you.
Uh,
Okay, starting over on this one.
yes, please.
This is Taylor and Marty. It's a case study for centerline halts. She said video clips were taken. These are at a schooling show, and then you'll see some at-home practice. And she would love your thoughts.
Okay, so obviously in that one we just watched, the horse is resting its right hind leg. So like I was saying a little bit with Keegan and her test, when she did her first halt, the most important thing is that your horse stands still first and that it's relaxed about it. That's a super easy thing to miss. You can see there again, resting that right hind leg, and that one is going to be tough. So relaxed, standing still is the most important thing. When you go to correct the halts, you want to always correct them moving forward. I know some of this, guys, is stuff you already know, but we're just going to sort of cover it anyway. That's a beautiful halt right there. So always correct it going forward. And if you have a horse that's struggling or just learning the halts, I actually always do them through a few steps of walk. I don't have any problem with that. I think that's very good. And that's an excellent halt right there. So the other thing that I do is I do train my horses that if they need to correct a foot, if it's a front foot, I push on them with that toe in my stirrup, if that makes sense. I sort of poke them in with the right toe if it needs to be the right front, or the left toe if it needs to be the left front, or the right heel or the left heel for the hind legs. You can definitely train them to do that and to be understanding which leg you need them to square up. Full disclosure, I'm not great at halts. Like, I know how to train them. I'm not great at actually riding them. My horses, I always sort of have looked at halts as being like a byproduct of everything else that I do. And then I sometimes get to a big event and I'm like, oh, wow, I've never actually practiced this. So I think it's great that you're practicing it. And if you don't have a mirror, my other advice for you is to make sure that you've got somebody on the ground to be able to help you with it. So as far as your actual halts go, obviously you just want to watch that he doesn't rest the hind legs, which he really only does in that one halt, which is great. And then I would also say, once you get like that halt there was very good. Once you get comfortable with it and he gets comfortable standing there reasonably quiet, then take the time to hold the reins in one hand and pet your horse. So like right here, I would grab both reins with my left hand and I'd be patting his neck and then I'd be patting his butt and I'd turn around and, give him a scratch on his rear end and give him a scratch on his ears and try to make sure that he stands still while you're doing all that. And then I would trade hands and I'd grab both reins with my right hand and I'd pet him on the left side of his neck and I'd pet him behind the saddle and just get him to the point where he realizes like it's okay just to stand. I've had some horses that just never are very good at standing, and then I still work on that with them. But when you get to the horse show with those sorts, you have to be a little bit quicker, right? Halt, salute, and get out of dodge as quick as you can and move on with it. You look like you have a nice horse that will become very good at halting. He actually looks like he's already pretty good at halting. I would spend more time standing still on him so you can show that off. I would make sure, again, when you're correcting him, that you're always correcting him going forward, and then just keep tabs on that right hind leg, that he doesn't rest that right hind leg in the halt. And the way I usually correct it is I just sort of jostle around a little bit in the saddle and be like, come on, get on that hind leg there, and just give him a little back and forth lefty righty with it. But I think the big thing is just being patient with them and getting him to a place where he can stand still and you can sort of, almost sack him out while you're on him, like touch him, move around on him, and that he's not going to get shifty and panic and run off on you. But all in all, pretty good halts.
The shifting around is just a training thing. Like if you were in the ring, you wouldn't do that, would you?
Correct. No, that's just a training thing. Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. To make a good habit out of it. And then, not to belabor the point, but the helping them stand or get square with their front feet using your toes and their back feet using your heels. How do you teach them that's what you're doing?
So basically, I mean, if you think about it, you're kind of touching that part of their body, right? So like you touch a little with the right toe and then they're going to shift around. Even if they don't
Okay.
correct that foot, when they do move, I always give them a pat and be like, okay, good job. If they move and they like trot off on me, then I bring them back. But you just basically have to reward them like, okay, you touch them with that heel, they maybe correct a hind foot and you pet them and tell them that's great. And eventually, if you just reward them with, a pat or a scratch, they do start to figure that out, that right heel means right hind, left heel means left hind. And if you have a dressage stick, like on a horse like that, who seems like he's relatively quiet, I also wouldn't be afraid with the heel or the toe correction to just touch him on that leg with the stick. Like I've had some horses that you touch them and they bolt out of the ring. So you have to be aware of what you're sitting on. But that one looks like he would tolerate that and understand that pretty quickly.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. And we have one more video from Taylor. So let's see a little more of Marty. I think this is, let's see if this is the correct one. Nope, this is the same one we were doing.
I predict she's going to rest her right hind.
See, that's what I was hoping for from you. Okay. Do I have these? Let's see. This. Okay, yeah. So this goes longer. She says, just looking for general feedback and your tips for developing more bend.
Okay, so general feedback just right off the bat here, as I watch your position, you are a little bit in a chair seat, so your leg's just a little bit out in front.
John froze. Again. Once again, we'll be able to see a little preview of Marty.
Right. Am I
there
back?
You are.
Okay. I could hear you the whole time.
Okay.
So just play a little bit with your stirrup length. Be careful that you don't get your hips rolling underneath you too much. All in all, though, like we're talking minor corrections. Your position is pretty good. Watch here just that the hand stay even. The right inside hand wants to be just a little bit higher than the outside hand. And as far as bend, like that's going to be a training thing and at home thing that you're going to want to make sure you're always working on. So I do a lot of leg yields, a lot of spiral in, spiral outs, mixing in smaller circles, 10, 12, 15 meter circles, depending on the level. And then always when you're working him on trying to get that bend and working the lateral work, that's not a bad halt there, by the way. Pretty good. Oop, just good. That's all right. All right. I like it. And I love how he walked off relaxed there. Good job. So just introducing the bend slowly, but I would do, the first thing I would do would be spiral in, spiral out on the circle. I would do leg yields in trot, probably not in canter yet. And just make sure that when you're bending them, you're really trying to get that bend to come from your leg and not too much from your hand. The other thing is when you're practicing the leg yields, if he's struggling with lateral bend, it doesn't have to be a like horse show leg yield at home. It can be an overbent, like make his body feel like a big banana, let the shoulder lead, lots of bend, and just yield across and get him to understand like, oh, it's okay to bend and you don't have to be perfectly straight every single time, and take advantage of that. I really like the canter. You're nice and forward in the canter. A lot of people get into the show ring and they go into their canter work and they immediately are trying to collect it. And then you end up with a horse that's 4-beat. This is actually very nice. You went nice and forward right off the bat. And then here, obviously, as you're working the smaller 10-meter circle, then yeah, you need a little more collection. But because you've sort of empowered him with all of that energy, he's able to collect. If you just went off immediately into this collected canter, you'd be down there and either he would have broke to trot or you'd have sort of a crummy, shuffly little canter, but you don't. This is nice 3-beat. So well done going forward into that canter transition. That really set you up nicely.
That's all she wrote on that video.
Perfect. I was expecting left lead. Did I miss left lead?
I don't think we saw a left lead, actually. think
All
the
right.
video
Well,
just
what I
showed a
saw
right lead.
looked very good.
Good. That's such a cute horse, and a special one for us to follow too, because similar to Governor, actually, Keegan's horse, this is a horse that was like Taylor was part of Ride IQ before getting this horse, so we got to kind of see him. She even sent pictures of him like coming off the trailer when he got to her house, so it's fun to see those two progress together.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very cool. And like I said, I would just use lots of bend in your lateral work and just don't get caught up in making it perfect. Use the lateral work, extra bend at home. You could do it a lot in rising trot. And the other thing I'll say real quick on this, Jessa, is lunging actually is super helpful as well. You can use, like, I've actually started playing with this, what I call lungy bungee. But any of those lunging systems where you can just sort of get the horses to just stretch and relax, and that can be very helpful as well.
Interesting. That's really cool. Good to know. All right, next video. This is a first time participant. Her name is Bristol. I believe, yeah, Bristol's 11. So there's kind of a long description of Bristol and her horse, but the beginning of the video is kind of far away. So I'm going to play the video while we're at the beginning, and there's a little bit left to see. And then hopefully I'll be done talking by the time you can see better. Okay, this is Bristol. She's aged 11, and her horse Tate, age 17. Bristol's a starter / beginner novice level eventer. Tate has competed through preliminary. They are ready to become an official beginner novice team. Bristol has been working on her position. After riding a few horses that she couldn't trust, the sour old school horse, she's trying to learn how to trust Tate, and sometimes that will bleed into her position, i.e., she'll get caught behind in defense and land on Tate's back in a way he doesn't like. Tate retired from upper level eventing a few years ago after breaking his shoulder and undergoing 2 years of rehab. He's completely sound now outside of some kissing spine that they're monitoring. And let's see, Tate has the heart of a lion. He likes to take the long spot. They said often will joke, Tate will say, Bristol, hold my beer, and take her around a course. So Bristol's question is, she's looking for general feedback, and she said, how can I loosen my body when I ride but still ride defensively? She said, I know I need to sit up and keep my leg on, but sometimes I do too much and I get left behind. She said, I'd also like a few tips on how to jump down banks. I've learned to slip my reins some, but it's still not coming natural. It's like my hips can't move along with my horse. I'll get us back to, sorry, I spoke through the entire video.
That's perfect.
I'll get us back to where you can see some of her riding.
Okay, so first of all, really good explanation of the horse. I have a pretty good idea of what you're talking about and what's going on here. I love that you've got a horse that sort of knows his job and he's happy to be out there. You just see his ears are pricked and he wants to go do it. So well done. Think like that.
We lost you, John. But I have faith that you'll be back. Hopefully, similar to last time. People are certainly getting tired of my voice, though, I imagine. Come back. All right. Don't make me commentate this entire cross-country round.
Okay, I'm back.
There he is.
Okay, sorry. I wish I could fix that problem. That's not me. That's my internet. Okay, so it's a really good explanation of what's going on. I agree. You want to make sure you're always staying with the motion of your horse. That said, it is cross country, and at times you're going to get left behind. I think the one thing that I don't get left behind, make sure you don't take your reins with you. So you can actually kind of save the day if you do get a little left behind the motion by just letting the reins slip through your fingers. Now, the issue is sometimes then, especially as a newer rider, that can get you a little bit nervous. Like, now I'm going to land with these long reins and I'm going to get run off with. So a couple things you could do. One, tie a knot in the end of your reins so that you have something to grab. The other thing you can do is put a nice running martingale, make sure that it's not too short so that if you were to drop your reins, the martingale is actually going to hold the reins up for you and make it much easier for you to re-grab those reins. Another thing that actually is super helpful, and as adults, sometimes we don't like to do it, but kids love it, is get those multicolored reins, because then you're going to have an idea when your reins slip immediately where to get back to have your reins the correct length again, whatever color that is. Your coach or your mom or dad will tell you, like, okay, that's where you need to be. Well, you can't always be there cross country. I adjust my reins on course all the time. So you have to be comfortable letting the reins go. And the only way you're going to be comfortable letting the reins go is, one, knowing that if something were to go wrong and you were to lose them, you'd have that nice big knot to grab. And two, that you'd understand, like, okay, I got to get my reins to this color. I think that would be super helpful for you. As far as the drops go, I think one of the big things that people get into trouble the most with drop fences is that you feel like the picture you have in your head is the head of the lake at Kentucky, right? Where everybody's sitting way in the back seat, legs out in front, on the end of the rein, leaning way back. And that is like not the picture that you want when you're learning to drop. When you land off of a drop fence, probably the most important thing to remember is that you actually should land in your stirrups first. So your leg is on. Yes, your lower leg comes out in front of you a little bit. But when you get to the top of a bank, your horse sits down on its hocks, pushes off, and the first half of that jump is the same as if it was jumping a log. So it sits and pushes. In that moment, you have to be up, light, seats separated from the saddle. Then the second half of your horse's jump off a bank, it drops. When it drops, your hips have to swing through, and that's when you then open your upper body and the reins slip, and then you land into your stirrups. Then you let your body turn into a little bit of a C shape, and you scoop your seat down into the saddle. And now, because you've got that big knot in your rein, you can canter away on that soft rein. You just grab the knot, pull the reins up through, boom, boom, and away you go.
Off to the races like a true professional, Bristol.
That's right.
I love it. Cool. Good job, Bristol. That is very fun watching you ride, and what a sweet horse.
Yeah, I cannot wait to see this in 6 weeks, 6 months, and a year from now, and see how much fun you're having.
Totally. Yes, please. That's a good point. Please update us at one of the future video reviews so we can see more of you guys. All right, next up we have our friend Lee. You know her from previous video reviews. I think she was doing this doesn't look like it's the right one, but it is. I think she was doing a ditch in her last video review that you did for her. And let's see, she said, here's a video that's just a bunch of clips of our last cross country schooling. The first 2 clips is his over the ditch, which, yep, if you remember, was my question last time. She said, I think I'll just have to keep him seeing ditches more regularly, and he will do the ditches. She said, no real question, just an update from the last review. Would love some feedback. All right, here we go. Lee and Tiz.
That was pretty darn good. That's my feedback on that one.
Yeah.
Love it. All right. So one thing I'd say there is, as you ride from that ditch to the log, you did a really good job staying behind. When you get those sticky jumps like you had at the log and the little cross country, I think it was a bench or something afterward, if you get a little bit of a sticky jump, the correction wants to be to go forward on the landing side. So even if, which it wasn't, but even if it was that you pulled on his face, I think sometimes we're like, oh, poor horse. And then we land and sort of canter away quietly and pat them. They need to understand, no, you have to go forward, right? Like right there, I'd say, get on with it. That was beautiful right there. So for sure, to your point, it's Lee, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So to your point, Lee, yes, ditches, you're going to have to keep showing him. All of the stuff you keep showing him, and he's going to get braver and better every time. But one of the things we can never forget on cross country is how important having your horse in front of your leg and forward is. So if I get one that's a little sticky, and he looked genuine sticky, not like he didn't want to go, but if I get one that's a little bit sticky, I'm going to land and I'm going to just zip away. I used to say gallop away, but I don't want you to be like crazy. But I do think when they get in there and they get that little stick like you did at the log or like you did at the cross country jump, I think it was one jump later, I just would get away from it, maybe a little touch with the stick and just be like, come on, you're good. Let's go have some fun. Get out in front of my leg. And 90% of the time, that makes that go away that much more quickly. Horses typically are good cross-country horses when they're forward and taking you to the fences. And so if they are a little bit green, a little bit worried, if you can sort of instill that forwardness into them, that's going to make your life so much easier.
Love it. And love the update. Fun to see you guys going over the ditch. Going over the ditch since last time we saw you, there was a little bit of an issue with the ditch. So that's awesome.
Yep.
This next one, believe it or not, is Bristol's mom, Amanda. So we're going to see their family. I know. I'm going to read it before I pull up the video because it's just a bit long and I don't want to talk over it the whole time again. So she said, let's see. She said, here's a video of a not so perfect Friday practice jumping around beginner novice. This is my 5-year-old thoroughbred actor who's never raced. I've personally ridden him through preliminary level. So I'm not sure why they're doing beginner novice, but maybe we'll see. He has lots of scope, potential, and opinions. Maybe she means I've personally ridden through preliminary level.
That sounds right.
She's ridden through prelim. This horse is a beginner novice. He has lots of scope, potential, and opinions. We've had everything x-rayed, all the soundness exams. He's clear on everything, no health issues. As you can see in the video, everything can be lovely. And then once he gets a little overwhelmed, he takes these 2 or 3 giant leaps before the fence. We've played with his bits and combinations of nosebands, saddles, girths, etc. What we've come up with is you have to change his bridle setup every few weeks to keep him on his toes. He has a very soft mouth. He does flat in a plain straight barred nath and sometimes jumps in a nath combo hack a bit. Yep. He likes to swish his tail. He's very talkative in that way. This behavior seems to be exaggerated when he's introduced to new challenges like jumping a ditch or raising the height of a jump. As time goes on, he calms down until the next challenge. I'm just looking for general guidance. This is my first horse to bring up from scratch. She sat on him for the first time when he was 3 years old. Let's see. I think there's a little more there, but I think that you get the gist. So let's
How old is he
video.
Again?
He's 5.
5 now. Okay.
Here we go.
Oh, I think I know this place. This looks like Poplar Place. Nice jumping horse.
Yeah, beautiful.
A very good hind end. He does look like he's pretty forward thinking and aggressive. Just watch a little bit more here. So the one thing that I really like that I heard in the beginning was that you said you've done all the veterinary stuff and you've really looked into all of that, because when you get a horse that can be a little tricky, and this, I think, looks so far, what I'm seeing is you're doing a pretty darn good job. Oh, there we go. Trying to keep him in the center of things. You want to make sure that there's no veterinary stuff, right, that's causing a problem. And I think it sounds like you have tried to cross all those T's and dot all those I's. So well done that way. So then it does just come down to training sometimes, right? And I would continue to explore the bit thing. For sure, sometimes there are horses that you have to change the bridle around a little bit. No pun intended. But in the end, usually they do settle into something eventually that they like. If the opportunity comes up for you to get an expert that really looks at bits, I would highly recommend it. I've sort of recently experimented with that a little bit, and it's helped me with one or two of my horses. When you have somebody who really knows how to put their hands in their mouth and look at them and can tell you this is what is going to help the most, that can be super helpful. So just watching you sort of school around the ring here, one of the big things that I think to myself is that he probably needs a lot of gymnastics. He'd be a horse that if I were schooling him, I would have different gymnastic exercises set up at home. If I had
We lost you, John. But I think I'm getting the sense that John knows when we've lost him because he says, I'm back when he gets back. So I think it's probably telling him that he's not here. But we're going to take another spin through Amanda's round. I wish I had more. I mean, I talked about liking to just continue to chat. I wish I had more.
Okay, I'm back. Okay.
Talk to you guys about.
So I would want to do gymnastics with this horse. Like, he looks like he's a very good jumper when he's paying attention. He's obviously very keen. I would say that I would have some stuff set up at home. There's lots of gymnastic exercises on the Ride IQ app of things you can play with. And you'd love, if you're going to do them well, to have a person on the ground to help you with it. So I would want a horse like this to get very comfortable with trot poles, to get very comfortable with canter poles. I would use placing rails, things like that. If you're going to do any stuff where it's on the ground, if you can do it with 4x4 poles, that's going to make it a little bit easier for you and safer because they're less likely to roll if your horse were to step on it. But I think having something that he would come into and be impressed by, doesn't have to be big. You don't want it to be big, but something he could be impressed by so that he doesn't want to do what he just did there and leap at that fence 5. Would be super helpful, but then you're going to have somebody on the ground there to help you with that. There are some gymnastic lines in the app that you don't need to have a person on the ground. But in general, when you're doing the gymnastic work, that's going to make it easier. I would also, sort of a very simple one, have a fence set up in the ring, small, and I would just figure of 8 over it, right rein, left rein, nice big sort of 30, 40 meter circle each way, and just come cantering in on the right rein, jump it, come cantering in on the left rein, jump it. Now, funny story, this horse actually reminds me a lot of a horse that I have named Zelda, Fernhill Esmeralda. When I bought her, she went like this, and I didn't want to buy her. I said, I'm going to buy this other one, and I showed it. I was there with my wife, Jen, and she said, no, you should buy the chestnut mare. And I said, absolutely not. She is aggressive and runs at the jumps. And then I sent the videos to my friend Leslie, who you guys all know. And I accidentally sent the video of the chestnut mare, and he said, well, the one you like is okay, but that mare is really the one you should buy. And I said, no, I get to vote on this, and you can have a vote, I guess, and Jen can have a vote, but my vote counts double. And we're tied. I'm going to buy the one I want. And then Leslie's wife voted. And so I got outvoted 3-2, and we bought the chestnut mare, and she did exactly what your horse is doing for about 9 months. And I yelled at Jen and I yelled at Leslie and told them I couldn't believe they made me buy her. And now she's my favorite horse in the barn, and she is still aggressive, but they do eventually come around. She is brave. Your horse looks like it's brave, so be patient with it. And I bet in another 6 to 18 months, you're going to be laughing and saying, oh yeah, this is turning out like Zelda did for John. And it turns into a machine because it wants to go to the jumps, and that is so important.
Zelda is a certified badass, so comparing this horse to Zelda, that's a huge compliment. And that horse does look pretty cool too.
Yeah. Good jumper.
Amazing. Well, that concludes our videos, and we have a few more minutes left. Is it okay with you if I just throw some random questions your way and see what you have for us?
Yeah, and hopefully my internet will hold up. Yes.
Yeah, if your internet doesn't hold up, maybe I'll just say adios to everybody, but I hope it holds up too. So these are kind of like rapid fire, just like short answer stuff. And then I have one that we could finish with if we get there.
Yep.
What is a pet peeve that you have having to do with horses or riding?
Gosh, a pet peeve I have with horses. Well, a silly one that I have that is not really related to like anything important is that I hate when people use my ring and leave my poles on the ground or disheveled or disorganized. I cannot
Mhm.
handle it, which is super ironic if you see my bedroom or my closet, because that is not that way at all. But in my ring, I cannot tolerate it. And Jen is the worst offender.
Oh no.
Oh my God, when she gets done, it's like somebody just exploded. The show jumps in the ring. I think aside from that, riders that are unsympathetic to their horses, like truly unsympathetic to their horses, and are hard on them and not appreciative of what they do is a real pet peeve of mine. And that's kind of a big picture thing. Like that's a really simple, easy answer, but I think sometimes people think they're being sympathetic and kind to their horses, but they're maybe, sitting on them hard, digging their spurs in, try to sort of putting their ambitions into the horse, forgetting that the horse's ambition for the day was to get fed and go out and eat grass. And so we all can be guilty of it. We have our agenda, and putting that agenda on the horses sometimes can make us ride a little bit hard and a little bit tough on them. So I think if I had a pet peeve, that probably would be the biggest one.
Yeah, I like that one. Do you have a favorite piece of riding equipment?
Um, Favorite piece of riding equipment. I mean, I try to keep it fairly basic, so probably not like a
Even if it
favorite. I
was
will.
just
Okay, so one
like if I
thing I'll
took
say
all
that
your things
okay,
and
so
I took
one thing I will say that is super important to me is my reins. They have to be reins that I'm comfortable with, and the reins that I'm comfortable with may not be the same reins that you're comfortable with. Um, when I get a horse in training and they have what I call noodle reins, those really thin rubber ones that are like floppy wobbly, I cannot ride in them. And it makes me hard in my hands because I'm squeezing so tight to hold on to them. I need a good, thick, solid rubber rein, like the old Equus rubber with the
Mhm.
leather running between them. Not like a lot of reins now, they have leather and then it sort of gets sewn into the rubber, which obviously then has nylon down that portion of it, and then it goes to rubber again. I like a full on all leather all the way through rein, and that seems silly, but it's one of the biggest connections you have to it's a big part of the connection you have to your horse's mouth, which I think the feel you can have with your horse's mouth is the most important thing in riding. So if you're struggling holding onto your reins, if I'm struggling holding onto my reins, then I know I can't do my job. So I have to have a good pair of gloves and a good set of reins that I like. And I think when I get horses in training now, if they come with the bad reins, I immediately switch them out. And if I don't have the right set, then I call the owner. I say, you got to send me a better set of reins. I can't do this.
You just reminded me, and the I meant to mention it after the last video is we have a bridle and bit fitter coming on Ask an Expert in 2 weeks. So if that person
Oh,
wants to learn more about bit
perfect.
fitting or bridles or anything, that's coming. And that makes sense those are the most like personal to you and important pieces of equipment that you have. Are there any pieces of equipment that you feel like are overrated, or if you see them in like the warm up ring, you're like, that's just not my favorite thing because maybe people don't know. Like yeah, take it away. Is there anything that comes to mind?
Um, I think most bits and bridles have a place. I think, it'd be easy to be like, oh, I don't like a certain bit because it's harsh. But really, the harshness
Mhm.
comes from the rider and their hands. So I've ridden horses in what some people would consider to be fairly strong bits. But if you have a sympathetic hand, I think that can be fine. I've also ridden horses in a snaffle and rubbed a hole in their mouth because it wasn't enough bit. So I think in general, there's probably not a piece of tack I would see in a warm up ring. I will say, and I say this, and I said it one time, and I offended my good friend Tick, so I have to put qualifiers in here. Um, if I get a horse that shows up here for training and it walks off of the trailer in a rope halter or like a Pirelli halter, I instantly know I got problems. Like that horse is going to be a real headache. Typically because the person has probably gone to that because they have issues. And now they're coming to me because they're like, I didn't fix the issues. And by the way, here's a rope halter. I was told maybe that would be the magic bullet. So if they show up in a rope halter, I usually like kind of give a sigh and I'm like, oh boy, here we go. Which is a broad generalization. And I do believe in natural horsemanship and all of that. And,
Yeah.
Tick is amazing. So he knows his stuff. But
He is.
I think anything that's kind of like trendy or like a quick fix type thing, I'm always very leery of because usually it's the horseman that's the important part.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Are there any habits that you have at a show that are just part of your personal program as a rider that help you get through the weekend?
Well, I had an answer, but when you said, what's my habit at a show, Jen? Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Losing my temper on people. So, I did discover this actually a long time ago now. So funny story. And I'm not proud of this, actually. I'm telling you this, it's a little self-deprecating and I'm trying to be a better person. I was at an event. I had a relatively new groom. She'd been with me. She's a good friend of ours now, Katie Long. But she'd been with me for probably 6 or 9 months. And we went to Poplar actually. And I was in the 4-star and we drove in and I rode the horse and she looked at me and she said, who are you going to pick a fight with? And I said, what are you talking about? I don't pick fights with people. She says, yeah, you do. You always pick a fight with an official when you're at an important event that you want to do well at. You always end up fighting with them about something, whether it's footing or a jump or something. You're going to pick a fight. And I was like, wow, you're right. I do. So apparently I get a little bit short-tempered and I don't take it out of my horses. I tend to go and pick a fight with somebody important at the horse show, which is incredibly stupid and I don't recommend it. So like if I have a habit, a bad habit, that probably is my bad habit. And I definitely have a bit of a reputation for it now, which is honestly ironic because I've always thought of myself as being a pretty nice person, but I've quickly realized that amongst the officials in the sport, I am not thought of as being a nice person. I'm thought of as being a real jerk at the events. And I laugh about it, but it's not funny. It's not cool, but it is something that I struggle with. And I think it's honestly because, and maybe I'm looking for an excuse here. I think it's because I am actually a nice person and a compassionate person and sometimes too much. And I have to have a little bit of aggression in me to be able to go out and do my job and do it well. And that's kind of how I've figured out to do that over the years. And I definitely need to find a better way. And I've been trying to do that for the last 12 months, but from the sounds of my wife sitting at her desk, I guess I have not achieved that yet.
Well, I think that's great self-awareness and honestly, genuinely appreciate the vulnerability and sharing that you have a weakness because, the rest of us, it's hard to do that. It's hard to see that in yourself and admit it publicly. I will say I've known you in so many different circumstances and over a long period of time now, and I've never seen anything remotely like a temper. You've been, I've only seen the kindness that you're describing. So
well, that's very nice of you to say. I did actually, funny enough, quick plug. We have Sally Spickard from Eventing Nation on our podcast for the John and Rick show on Thursday. And we obviously pre-recorded it. And she says to me in the show that the first time she met me was at the American Eventing Championships in Texas. And she was so scared of me because I had RBF. I don't think I'm allowed to say the word. So I had RBF so bad that she thought that I can say it. Okay. I had resting.
I don't know what it means.
Apparently. Yeah.
Oh, resting bitch face. Got it.
Yeah. So bad that she thought I was just the meanest person in the world. And she wouldn't talk to me for like a year or two until she saw me again and realized I wasn't actually mean. So I think it's a thing.
Interesting. Well, people on Ride IQ at least have heard from you enough that they're probably not too intimidated. You feel like an old friend at this point.
Yeah, good.
Thank
I'm
goodness.
glad. I don't mean to be that way.
Yeah, no, you're a great guy. Okay, last question for you. Will you give us just a little like challenge of the week, whether it's an exercise or something, maybe something to like do outside of the tack? Any challenge of the week is game. Just something you can put out to people that they could take you up on if they want to.
Okay. Let's see. So like the easy ones would be, you can maybe help me with this a little bit, Jessa. So easy ones would be like some stuff in the saddle, like forcing yourself to ride without stirrups, right? And you can do that to your level. One thing I'd say is don't start there, warm up, let your horse's back warm up. And then if you've never done it, do it at the walk. Do it at the walk and get comfortable. If you've done it, then do it in the trot and in the canter. Like do it to your ability. But I challenge myself to ride without stirrups at least 2 horses a week. I start with them and then I chuck them out of the ring, and it just helps your seat get relaxed and soft. So that'd be something that I think would actually be quite good for everybody.
That's a great one.
The other thing that you could do is this is new to me because I just started realizing how crooked I am yesterday, because I got Tony Sandoval to come here and check me out, right? And Tony showed me all the numbers, and I was like, oh boy, I'm pretty crooked. And one of the things I realized that I don't do is I do go to the gym a bit, but I don't ever work out in front of a mirror, because I see people work out in front of a mirror and I'm like, wow, you really like to look at yourself. But actually, I think I might have to start exercising in front of a mirror so that I can make sure that I'm doing everything the same on both sides, because he showed me pictures of myself going through his little series of exercises where I thought I was straight, and I've got like one arm out here and one arm over here, and it's just terrible. Like it's so crooked. So I guess I've given you 2 challenges, and you take them to the level that you're comfortable with, right? If you've never worked out before, then you're probably not going to go to the gym and work out in front of a mirror, but you certainly could stand in front of a mirror and see, do you stand straight? Are you actually able to hold your arms at your side, which seems simple, but I can promise you is not. Hold your arms at your sides and have it the same. Can you move your arms up and down the same way and have yourself be even and straight? I think that's actually some pretty valuable stuff. As a rider, we don't want to be heavy on one side or heavy on the other side. So I'd be thinking a little bit about that as well. So there's 2 things: no stirrups, and check yourself out in the mirror and make sure that you're straight.
Oh, amazing. I'm so excited you're working with Tony. I mean, speaking of nice people,
Oh my gosh.
Coach Sando, he has a program. I think it's a 10 series program of workouts in the app. So if anybody is interested in that, there is Coach Sando content on the app and some Asking Experts with him. But yeah, kindest person and such an incredible expert in his field. And everyone who works with him, including a lot of Ride IQ members, rave about him, and he holds them accountable. He does virtual stuff too. But nobody deserves a plug more than Coach Sando. So if you guys listening is kind of thinking about, getting into that and wants to take the mirror thing a step further, reach out to Coach Sando, because he's
awesome. You should. It's really cool. I'm all in. I told him yesterday I'm all in. The other thing I'll say, just as a quick plug for what a nice guy he is, when he called me about coming out and meeting with me, I said to him, I would love to do it. Like I've wanted to for a very long time. Can he happen to be in Ocala? And then I said, would you be willing to talk to my kid, because he's interested in that field? And he took time to sit down with my son and go over all kinds of stuff and give him lots of ideas and options and things he can do for school. So I thought that was very nice of him. He's a great guy.
That's amazing. All right. Well, 10 out of 10 for Tony, and Jon, 10 out of 10 for you, even with the internet issues.
Yeah, internet gets a 0 out of 10, but I'll take the 10 out of 10. We'll give it a 5.
I'm going to send you, no, you get the 10 out of 10. I'll send you an internet booster. Maybe that'll help us for next time.
I've got 3 in the house. I don't know what the problem is.
You might have too many boosters in there. You're buzzing. Okay. Well, thank you so much. So appreciate your advice and feedback. Looking forward to the next one, and good luck. I think you're headed to Chattahoochee tomorrow. Is that right?
Thursday now. We have to go a day later, but yes, we're there this weekend. Yep.
Well, go Team Holling. We'll all be cheering for you, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jessa.
Bye, John. Thank you.
Bye.
All right, I have clicked stop recording, but this platform keeps us going live, so whoever's watching live can still see us.
Perfect. All right.
Let me see if you're fully uploaded. Yeah, you are. So we can actually get out of here.
Okay, I gotta figure out this internet. This happens every
And
time with you guys. I'm sorry. All right.
Don't